Hi, my name is Gabriela, and I did my presentation over the Nook culture of West Africa. And so you may ask, who was the Nook culture? So the Nook culture was an early complex Western African society. They lived between the 1000 BC through the 300 CE. They were actually located in central Nigeria, and a lot of them were occupied as skilled farmers, iron workers, and because they were so good with their hands, they actually built villages and with circular houses. And what they're most known for are their terracotta sculptures. And the terracotta sculptures were handcrafted clay figures made out of terracotta, which is basically fired clay. And the way that they made them demonstrated how the humans looked. So they had dramatic hairstyles, specific jewelries, and even expressive faces. And so the people that actually made the crafts were the Nook people. And the crafts were created roughly between the 900 BC and 200 CE. But there's also evidence that it was stretched back into as early as the 1500 BC. So I have an image here where it has the examples of like the triangular eyes or circular eyes, and which you may see a silly note. Through the way that they made these sculptures, they symbolize spiritual watchfulness or protection, and they were actually used during rituals. And then after they were done with them during after the rituals, then they would be buried. Now, they weren't common everyday objects, but they were created for special things like rituals, spiritually, ceremonial purposes, and they actually represented their ancestors and spiritual beings or even protective forces. So through these terracotta sculptures, they also reflected the Nook people's belief system and their values. It actually gave the community an identity, whether that was through their status or through their religious practices. One of the earliest scale figurative sculptures was Saharan Africa, which was actually later influenced by the West African civilization. Now, a little bit about their social structure. It reflected their hierarchy and roles in their society, whether that was rulers, elites, or important figures. It also, like I said, was used in religious or ceremonial roles, and they even indicated gender roles and family structure. And through their social structure, it also reveals the wealth and the distribution and social privileges. Now, their values and beliefs were reflected in the work by, their spiritual and religious beliefs, again, used in ritual and ceremonial practices, and it was actually a reference for their ancestors and or gods. It also highlights their moral or ethical values and expresses community ideals and traditions. And through these sculptures, actually emphasizes life, death, and after life belief. Now, this work matters today because it's an artistic innovation and cultural significance. It marked a beginning or an end in artistic trend, and it influenced later art, sculptures, and cultural practices. It also reveals the human creativity, values, and social complexity, offer insights to historical societies and daily lives. And lastly, it contributes to culture and aesthetic and historic legacy. Why do people create what is served by the act of creation? I mean, I think art expresses one's belief, it allows people to connect and communicate, it's the preservation of memory, skill, and innovation, and social and ritual purposes. As well as, lastly, I think that art is a legacy and it can influence one another.